This is A Death at the Party, which is my most recent. It's a standalone novel all on its own. And this book came from, so I was for many years a high school English teacher. And there's a classic novel, Mrs. Dalloway, written by Virginia Woolf. It's about 100 years old, 1925. It was published. And Mrs. Dalloway follows Clarissa Dalloway over the course of a single day in London as she prepares for a garden party that she's throwing that night. So it's like literally, I stole the premise of Mrs. Dalloway. And that was kind of, years ago, I read this book called Death Comes to Pemberley, which is P.D. James, the mystery master P.D. James, who took Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice and turned it into a thriller. So Pemberley is like the estate where they lived in Pride and Prejudice. So I really loved that idea of like take a premise of a classic novel and then throw in, as you say, a dead body. So what A Death at the Party is it follows Nadine Walsh as she plans a party, but in the very first 5 pages of the book, we see her standing over a dead body, and it's 11, 12 o'clock at night, midnight. And she's in her basement. Oh my God. And then, like you said, she goes upstairs and she's like, cheers. Oh my God, nobody knows there's a dead body in my basement. And then we rewind to 7 o'clock in the morning and she's in her kitchen, finishing her coffee, getting ready for her day. So the reader knows. That's why I call it a why done it, because the reader knows who done it. But the characters don't. So the reader almost gets to try to figure out, okay, who's going to die here? Because we don't know who dies and why. We know what, and that we know how the party ends, but we don't know why. And so that was really fun to try to play with that, where you're not trying to hide and then slowly reveal who the killer is or anything like that. You've given that up on the first page. So now you're trying to build it out, like why did they do it and who did they kill? And at the beginning, if you think about your own day, like if you started to think about everybody who's ever wronged you and you're having this party and all these people are coming over, it's funny to think that there's more than one person in your life that you might end up killing if things went terribly wrong. So yeah, she has a pretty complicated day, but the book is, one day. For me, I need to know the premise. I need to know the general ending. And then I sort of set out, and like I said, like for me, it's really about layering draft to draft and adding the complexity and figuring out the characters and who I need, who I don't need, who I can merge together, who needs a bigger starring role, who needs less. It's really the drafting, the editing process is what builds that all out. It's split into morning, afternoon, evening. Although you do get a snippet of the evening at the beginning of the book, but otherwise the book is set up in, and so that because I will say, writing Still Mine, all of the Still books also take place over a pretty short period of time. So Still Mine is a week, and it's divided by days too, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or whatever day it starts. And with Still Mine, I really learned the hard way about breaking down time and limiting yourself. Because let's say I had a scene where I need 2 characters to talk to each other about something, and I have it on Tuesday night. Okay, so where would you be on a Tuesday night? Well, you'd probably be at let's say at a bar eating dinner or something. But then now I need to switch that scene to Wednesday morning. You're probably not going to be eating dinner and dancing in a bar on a Wednesday morning. Now you're going to be, at a cafe, or you're going to be like at work or wherever. So I created so much trouble for myself in terms of managing the layout of time, that with writing A Death at the Party, because I was so constrained to a day, I tried to be very aware, like how long would this take? Okay, she's going to pick up flowers. Like how long would that take you? And how long would this conversation take, and really be mathematical about it? And then scenes that had the potential to move around, I just wouldn't even really put a setting to them. I just have a conversation between two characters, and then I could insert it. I need that to happen at the coffee shop in the morning, or I need it to happen in her living room in the afternoon. And I learned it still wasn't easy, but still mine, like I kicked myself often for how I had to rejig the story as things got moved around. So I tried to make that process a little easier on myself in subsequent books. You know what's so interesting? I don't know how closely you've been following the news, but I have this novel project that I'm working on, and the idea is to do something a little bit more sort of sweeping, and add a little, almost like a Romancing the Stone kind of thriller, like where it's, a little more large scale, but the antagonist part of the story is about, a very rich man who is obsessed with the bottom of the ocean. So I have found, as a writer, when you write something and you might think to yourself, or other people might say, like, this would never happen in real life. And as a writer, I find I'm always saying, like, real life will always outdo fiction in terms of the wild things that can happen. And so this week, reading about this obviously devastating story, of the submersible, but it just goes to show you, like, you could make that up, like the details of that story, and the character who's, like, ignoring safety regulation, and then they go down, and then, like, just the details of it, and the depth of the story, and the different characters. And they're not characters, they're human beings, and I'm acutely aware of that. But it's felt very close to what I've been working on. So it was sort of an interesting experience, and obviously very stressful to follow it. So but that's one part of the story. I always want to try something a little different. So I always stay true to the thriller, the core idea of a fast-paced thriller. But this time, yeah, I'm expanding the scope a little bit. The water is a big character. So that's my atmosphere in this one, sort of setting. But I don't know. I do want underwater, because I have always had a fascination with underwater, like being under. I love nothing more than diving down, in a lake and the ocean, and just, you literally go down to a place where you can't breathe, and there's this whole other world. Like, it's like we have space, but on Earth. That's how I feel about the ocean, that it's space on Earth. We have this fascination with space, but meanwhile we have this ocean that's, 90% unexplored, and it's a version of space, mostly empty, but also teeming with life. And so I've always been fascinated by it. And I think it does make for a great character, as you said, setting it as characters. So yeah, whether there'll be deep exploration, I haven't gotten there yet, but might be a little too sensitive now. But yeah, the ocean is definitely a player in the story. Like, I love the idea of having this core central genre that I'm sticking to, which is this sort of psychological thriller. I imagine most of my main characters will be women, or like the core POV will be a woman, maybe not, but I think that's my sort of angle. And then from there, I love the idea of exploring. I mean, there's so much room. Like I said, this time I'm going for this sort of worldwide romantic adventure, like Romancing the Stone, with the psychological thriller at the core. And then from there, yeah, you can go back in time, you could do history, you could go ahead, you could do, put people on spaceships. Like, I mean, I don't know. The possibilities are endless. And I think we're so lucky to have, I love the idea of having a core genre that you stick to, but then trying to expand your horizons and explore as much as you can within that.